For the last 14 weeks during the build process at Coating Central, we've documented pretty much everything. We hope that this footage will be valuable to you in understanding part of the process. We understand that across this screen, it's very hard to answer questions and to show you a comprehensive approach on all of the steps involved, from surface prep to polish and coatings and everything in between. We hope that you'll check out the www.coatingscollege.com to register for our classes. We intend to show you a couple of things throughout the showroom and talk about the process involved. We're going to start off first with our polished raceway. This is about 160 linear feet by 5 feet of polish. In mapping out this polish, we allowed an extra foot or so on each side for our surrounding borders, which are done by hand with polymer modified cements. This was the very first step after the renovation process in Coating Central, in which we used multiple machines from Husqvarna and Sace to achieve this 1500 grit polish. We really wanted to cut down into the slab and reveal the aggregate to show the true beauty behind the original pour. This slab was extremely uneven, and it took a lot of grinding and surface preparation to even begin to consider the polish process. As you can see by some of the footage that was taken prior to this night, it was an extremely rough slab. There were shoulders and corners that didn't match up, that needed to be repaired. There was a lot of crack repair. There were joints. We really kind of started from square one to bring it to where it is today. Polish is really made up of 3 basic steps. Our first step was a cut, or a metal step. This was, again, our 16 grit, 30-40 grit, 60-80 grit. We then go to our transitional or honing, where we use our hybrid diamonds, 50, 100, 200. We then step up into our polishing steps, 400, 800, and eventually 1500. In speaking on this, it makes it seem like it's a very quick process. Polish is not. Typically, when you are looking at integrating polish into your business, you have to mostly consider productivity and labor. Unlike coatings, which is the forefront of the cost is your materials, with polish, the forefront of your cost is labor. So if you don't streamline your process within polish, you will lose money very quickly. However, if you buy a set of tools, you typically can get through a job this size 8 or 10 times over. So your investment of a full set of tools typically runs somewhere around $3,000. However, $3,000, a machine, a vacuum, and a helping hand can again put 8 to 10 jobs easily this size on your books. It's very profitable as long as you follow the steps. This particular process took us about a week. That is a pretty long time for a job this size. However, within this showroom, as mentioned, the slab was extremely uneven. We did have very intricate steps within our stencil process, and we were working around other trades. This is oftentimes the biggest hurdle in polishing your jobs. We'll show you a little bit about the stenciling process as well. That was probably the most intricate piece behind this polish, and typically takes a team of multiple people as well as a very concerted effort. Why did we stop at 100 grit transitional? Well, there's a very important step, and that was placing the stencils. At this point, the slab is still open, it's not been closed or densified, and will receive acetone dye. We used Sherlock dye from Ameripolish, which you can get at www.supply-design.com through Megan Supply and Design. At 100 grit, we went ahead and attached our stencils and impregnated our dye using Ameripolish Color Solve. At this step at 100 grit, Color Solve is not required, but it does allow for a very deep penetration of the dye. Immediately upon impregnating the dye, we densified with Ameripolish 3D HS. 3D HS is what we sell most at Megan Supply and Design and is our go-to densifier. The stencils were from floor maps, which were donated to Coating Central You can check out 4Maps Inc. online. These guys can pretty much create anything from stencils, and logos, and decals, and everything in between. They specialize in the decorative concrete industry and should be your go-to for stencils and logos. This is our Seed of Life. This is a 5x5 stencil. It came very simply mapped out. As with floor maps, everything has very detailed information for instructions. There's very little guesswork, but you have to be sure that your stencil is placed appropriately to begin with. You got one shot. As a team, we did this with about 3 people. There was transfer paper and parchment paper, and essentially the transfer paper was aligned, the parchment paper was pulled back, and then the transfer paper was removed, and we picked out all of our negative areas. After that, the stencil is left. You simply impregnate the dye and the solvent, and that's really all there is to it. We had options to impregnate multiple colors in this, but we wanted to keep it simply grayscale, black and white, in order to show the detail over the aggregate. Had we put a lot of color in this, I believe that it would have gotten washed out, and we might have even bled through the aggregate. That was a chance that we didn't want to take with such a front entry, beautiful piece. From the coatings industry over epoxy and polyaspartic to polish renovation and polish enhancement, all the way to grind and seal, ballistics top coats and ballistic systems are the most innovative systems in decorative concrete. We're going to talk about the grind and seal. The grind and seal is as simple as it comes. It retails for about $5 to $9 a square foot and is a great budget alternative to polish. You can also perform clean and seals and hone and seals in addition to the grind and seal. These systems do not require a profile to bond. After a simple 60-80 grit cut, we wanted to offer 4 variables of very easy grind and seal. We offered a black and white square, which are both opaque, which is a simple process of just adding colorant to our BallistaSeal Advanced. You can offer your customer any color they desire. For our semi-translucent square, which is also black, we used a Maripolish Sherlock dye. This was impregnated with a simple acetone. For our native concrete square, we did nothing but apply BallistaSeal Advanced. For all 4 of these applications, there was 2 to 3 applications of BallistaSeal Advanced, simply spaced 30 minutes apart. After the product is dry, they are top coated with Ballistics Black Label to enhance slip protection, chemical resistance, UV protection, and many more benefits. To learn more about ballistics, you can check it out at www.squeezeyourtrigger.com. And remember, there is no profile that you need on your slab to bond, so this can go directly to any concrete slab that you currently have. The BallistaSeal Advanced is probably the most versatile product that we have within ballistics. It can go directly over overlays, concrete, and epoxy, and makes a beautiful standalone sealer for your budget customers. If your customer doesn't require chemical resistance and all of those great qualities, you can apply BallistaSeal Advanced independent with or without colorant. It's a very easy application that can be dipped and rolled, sprayed and rolled, or sprayed and mopped. It goes down very similar to a guard and requires absolutely no skill level. This entire system is also taught within our beginner and intermediate classes and is probably the most profitable system that you have to offer your customer. If you're a customer looking for this, this is DIY friendly. And even with all of the steps that are listed with colorants, pre-sealers, BallistaSeal Advanced, and Black Label, the total cost is about 65 cents a square foot. For contractors, typically we're charging between $5 and $9 a square foot, and you can do up to 15,000 square foot of this system a day. We recently had a contractor that was contracted for a 50,000 square foot facility. Total product cost was about $28,000, and the return on the job was $200,000. This took the contractor 3 days to perform. There was no grinding involved, and it looked very much like an 8 or 1500 grit polish. Keep in mind, this is not polish. It can still scratch, but it is an absolutely beautiful alternative if you are limited for labor, time, or money. The most popular installed coating outside of aggregate broadcast systems is the neat floor. This is one of the most sought after floors in interior design. as well as commercial and industrial applications. This is a very simplistic floor that consists of a dedicated 100% solids moisture vapor barrier. Protects up against 25 pounds per square inch of vapor emissions. It's followed by a pigmented 100% solids epoxy and topped with MSD satin urethane, which is an 82% solids high-wear urethane. This particular urethane contains aluminum oxide, which makes it extremely rugged and very scratch resistant. Again, this is one of the most sought after floors and also one of the easiest. It installs across the nation between $5 and $9 a square foot, depending on the application. This floor will cost about $1.45 a square foot currently contractor pricing. It's a very simple system, and put down correctly will last for many, many years to come in any environment. The garage was a little bit of a challenge for us. Flake is probably the most installed sector within the decorative concrete industry and makes up for the majority of the skill set within the contractors. With such a beautiful gallery, we asked ourselves, how would we make the flake look cool? As well as integrating our brand and kind of playing it into this garage that we've built here inside. After using our concrete slab as a basic sketch pad, we simply started scoring our lines. All of the circular lines were scored by hand. We then used our US Saws joint saw to make our linear cuts. We knew that we wanted to feature the 16 most popular Torganol flake colors. We stocked 24 at Megan Supply and Design, which you can find at supply-design.com. 16 of these blends are by far our most popular, and we wanted to feature them. It's a little bit of a challenge to try and figure out the color scheme behind this, but ultimately what we did was we applied our 100% solids vapor barrier. Keep in mind that after surface prepping this entire building, we did a 100% solids MVB grout coat. We did so by applying it at about 200 square foot per gallon by hand with a steel pool trowel. We diluted it down by about 10% with solvent and scraped it real tight against the slab. After doing so, we installed across this building, everything except the polished walkway, at 100 square foot per gallon, our MWrap moisture vapor barrier. So this already had an independent vapor barrier coat. After we scored our lines, we then took our 100% solids single shot epoxy and we started with our grays. Believe it or not, it just so happened to work out that every other pie within this color wheel needed a gray base. So we went ahead and we applied our gray, we flaked into it, and then we alternated colors. This took a couple of days to allow for appropriate drying time. Once this entire area was flaked, we applied our Aftershock 85% solids polyaspartic. It's an aliphatic polyaspartic with quite a bit of work time, but has a recoat window that allowed us to recoat after about 4 hours. This is a double broadcast flake, which means that we put our independent vapor barrier, our 100% solids epoxy, flake, polyaspartic. Sometimes people stop there as a single broadcast system, but we took it a step further and we broadcasted again into our polyaspartic and topped it with a polyaspartic top coat. This is the way that flake is installed in commercial settings. We wanted a very rugged surface that people could come, look, touch, and feel and walk on. After we did the initial color wheel, we then applied our quartz border. Now, we wanted to also display our 4 top quartz colors. That was Oyster, Twilight, Crystal, and Eclipse. This was done very simply in the same fashion. There was already an independent vapor barrier, so we used 100% solids epoxy. We tossed our Torganol decorative quartz into it and topped it with polyaspartic. Before the polyaspartic was dry, we simply tossed another round of decorative quartz and then topped it with polyaspartic. The challenge here was that we had loose aggregate, loose flake, loose quartz of multiple colors and a lot of pigments all in one area. So you can assume the approach on this was extremely difficult. We had to ensure that we didn't pull any pigment or quartz across and any flake across into other flaked areas. For your team, this would be a much more simplistic process. You simply grind to a CSP of 3 or 4, put your dedicated vapor barrier, or maybe you don't, if you'd like to just go with the 100% solids epoxy, a polyaspartic, or a polyurea, depending on your climate and area and zone, as well as your spec. You can go to coatingscollege.com and sign up for our Flake and Bake class. That's a very simple single broadcast system class and typically takes 1 to 2 days. These are typically taught by one of our Bulletproof Artistry members or our Coating Central staff. This is one of our prerequisites for our intermediate or advanced classes. Outside of our garage, we wanted to offer a simple outdoor system. If you're installing decorative concrete systems, you know that 9 times out of 10, your customer is going to grab you while you're there to look at their pool deck, their walkway, or their patio. This system is a very easy, simple system. This is known as our Flex Base Flex Bind. The Flex Base is a single component system that simply dips and rolls. After the Flex Base cures, which takes about 12 to 18 hours, you simply put down our Flex Bind. The Flex Bind will adhere directly to the Flex Base. And again, there is no mixing. It's a simple dip and roll. What we did from there was we took a natural quartz. You can use decorative quartz, but it is a little bit more expensive, to add an anti-slip traction. And then we simply covered it up with a polyaspartic that was tinted medium gray. This is our most popular outdoor system and retails across the nation for about $6 to $8 a square foot. Your contractor cost is about $1.50 a square foot. Again, it is a 2 to 3 day system, but it is a moisture cure urethane, which means if it rains and the system is partially cured already, you're not going to have any concern about losing all of your hard work for the day. It also doesn't take a rocket scientist. It is very simple, no mixing involved, simply dip, roll, broadcast, and top coat. This is a great system for driveways, pool decks, patios, and walkways. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. 3 years ago, there were 3.5 million players. Today, over 47 million players. The average age was over 65 years old, and now the median range is 18 to 23. Being the fastest growing sport in America, the demand says that there's 46,000 courts fewer than there are supposed to be to keep up with just the demand in North America. So, we will be offering training on sports courts facilities. This court is put down over a CSP or concrete surface profile of about a 3. The first step that's put down is a Acrylock acrylic moisture vapor barrier step that's simply dipped and rolled. After that, it's followed by steps after steps that are put down simply by squeegee. While not a terribly intricate system, training is absolutely 100% required. After 6 years pursuing the decorative concrete industry from a small industrial park in Fredericksburg, we're ready to show you what we're made of. From design and drawing to conceptual concept and finished project, we can offer you anything. If you can dream it, we can absolutely build it. From a beautiful grotto around the pool in your backyard to a specialized concrete island. Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses. Exceed the standards of typical building. All of these pieces are completely and totally catered towards you. They're handcrafted, they're absolutely beautiful, and they're built to stand the test of time. This center is for networking amongst Central Virginia businesses. And most importantly, it's a really cool home away from home. From artists to interior designers, architects, engineers, general contractors, and everyone in between, we would like you to come check out Coating Central. And most importantly, check this out.
For more information, visit www.codingcentral.com or give us a call at 540-734-6119. We've got you covered.